All right. I am delighted to welcome to the Sasaga podcast, Natsuyo. So please tell us who you are and how you help people.
Yes. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Natsuyo Nobumoto Lipshutz, and I'm originally from Japan, but I've been living in New York for 25 years now. And yeah, that's a long time. It's about half of my life, slightly less than half of my life. I kind of revealed my age just now, but what do I do? I'm a professional speaker, strategy consultant, and an author of these 3 books.
Yeah.
And the first book is called The Success Blueprint. And this was published in 2016. And 42 authors, including the world famous Brian Tracy, contributed each chapter to talk about what success is for each person, right? And the second book is in Japanese, 20時にそぎ落とせ. And it was published last year in 2019. And this is the Bible for all kinds of public speaking. And this is now translated into Korean and Chinese as well. And exactly a month ago, this third book was published. And it's called 世界のエリートは自分の言葉で人を動かす. And this is a deep dive on storytelling, especially in business presentations. So these are the 3 books. And what else do I do? I'm a mother of an 8-year-old daughter who is a professional model and a figure skater. And I myself am a ballroom Latin dancer, and I'm a breast cancer survivor. So what topic do we want to talk about?
Yeah, I know. I feel like this episode could probably go on for several hours. There is so much that's fascinating. I mean, I want to know more about the books, and I want to know more about your backstory and just about how you do everything, because you are definitely an inspiration to our listeners and those who are watching the video version of this as well. So absolutely wonderful. Let's start with one of my favorite questions is, what is your word of the year?
Yes, it actually changed already. Originally, my word of the year was leap. Besides 2020 is a leap year, I wanted to make a big leap in my business. I have been a professional speaker since 2017, and I wanted to take it to the next level. So last year, I put myself into it's like a boot camp for professional speakers, and it's only for professional speakers, and you need to be selected. So it was a very intensive 16 days total, 4 days per month for 4 months. So a total of 16 days, and really, really, really intense. And I finished that. So I thought, okay, so it's time for me to take a leap, and I want to gain more presence in the U.S. market as a keynoter and breakout session speaker, and more corporate trainings for non-Japanese companies. And then this pandemic happened, and the situation changed.
Yeah.
A lot of things changed.
Yep.
And I still remember on March 16th, I was supposed to give a keynote speech at an international event. And the night before, Sunday the 15th, I got a call or email from my daughter's school, and it said school canceled. And I was thinking, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to be at this event. Should I do it remotely, or should I still come in? Is it safe? So I was talking to an organizer until literally midnight the day before. And I ended up doing it remotely, and I'm glad I did it. But that first week was so overwhelming for me, it was such a lifestyle change overnight. All of a sudden, my daughter's here at home all day, and I had to manage her schedule and schoolwork, and I had to become a teacher all of a sudden, and I had to teach her and making sure that she's submitting all her schoolwork, and of course, I find her mistakes and I try to teach her, and she keeps making the same mistakes. I get frustrated, and I thought I just cooked breakfast, but it's already time for lunch. I have to cook again. It's already time for dinner. I'm cooking all day, and in between I'm checking emails and I'm working and having meetings, and I was so overwhelmed. Right. And in my mind, I was full of, I should be doing this. I should be there. I should be, and all the shoulds.
Right.
So I took a step back and I thought, I need to be more grounded.
Yeah.
So the new word of the year for me is grounded, because a grounded person can deal with something that, like they think as they are rather than as they should be. Right. And you also have a control over your body and mind, and so I wanted to be grounded. So now the new word of the year is grounded instead of leap. I'm still leap.
Right.
I need to be grounded to take a leap.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. It's like when you are grounded, you're in a better position to really take a leap. Right.
Yes. Yeah. You really have to, take a big spring and leap big. So
yeah. What led you, if we can just go back into that story, because this is something that I know that so many of our listeners have had a challenge with, and we've also had other podcast guests talking about this as well, that when you're in that overwhelm in the beginning of the pandemic, and you said that you did take a step back, what was it that led you to take that step back? And what I'm really getting to is here, how to get out of that really difficult situation and the overwhelm, because I think this is something that people can use for their situations too.
Yeah. Well, actually, I took a step back, not by choice. I quickly went into depression. And when I say depression, it's not like, I feel depressed, but it was totally something else. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't even use my voice. And, my mood was down the whole time. And I tried to talk to my friends, but I just couldn't listen to their advice or any positive comments they give me. I was like, no, I can't accept it. And I thought I hit the rock bottom. But as a professional speaker, I had to speak. I had speaking engagements. I had speech contests. So I forced myself to rehearse every night. And it took me literally 30 minutes or 40 minutes for me to say the first word in the script. But I forced myself to do it consistently every single day at night when I have my own time after my daughter goes to bed. And I started to feel little by little, but started to feel a little more energized day by day. And also speaking to my friends who would just listen instead of giving me advice. I wasn't looking for advice.
Right.
I just wanted to be heard, and I just wanted to vent my frustration. And those friends who just listened to me without any judgment really, really helped me. So either way, it was speaking to rehearse for my speaking engagements, and also speaking to my friends who would listen. So speaking was healing for me.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Speaking is healing. I think that's, we've talked about this in other episodes of the Sasaka podcast as well, is about actually being open when you're going through something that's a challenge. a lot of people, it's a tendency to kind of hold it in, and you feel embarrassed about sharing difficulties with people. But when you are actually open, as you say, that speaking is healing. That's how you get to solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking is a healing for yourself and for the audience too. When you share a story, your story may be your own unique experience, but the message you're going to give through your story is universal, So it really, by telling a story, your own unique story, you can touch many people's hearts. So that's how I look at public speaking and storytelling, and that's what this third book is all about.
I love that. Well, let's get into that a little bit more, because I think this is a topic that is not discussed or shared enough in Japan, in my experience, in the corporate world. There's more of a trend these days globally to share stories in business presentations. And the impression that I have here in Japan is that people think, oh, we can't get into the personal stuff. We can't get into the emotional stuff. And people don't see the value in those stories. I'd love to know a little bit your perspective on that, or especially, I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit here, but if you have any examples of where someone has shared a story in a corporate environment like that and it's made a difference.
Well, if you read this book, there are a lot of examples.
All right. In the show notes, everybody, go to the show notes. The link will be there.
Exactly. But when especially in the corporate world, just like you mentioned, especially Japanese business people, we focus on facts or data and case studies, right? And when you talk about case studies, you usually talk about, okay, that the situation was like this, and this was a solution, and there's a bullet points of the challenges, and then how the situation changed. Bullet points, done. That's it. But people understand the logical reasoning or data or some logic, but people are not. People are people. People have emotions, right? So they don't get completely 100% convinced just with logic. So you need emotional appeal, emotional connection. Even in business. I mean, I say even in, but especially in business, because in business, you want to, at the end of the presentation, you want to get something done, whether it's a sale or agreement or whatever. You're looking for a certain result. Then you need to be able to convince the other person, and the other person has to be persuaded. And to persuade the other person, logic alone doesn't do it. So that's where story comes in. You can talk about a case study in a story format, so that the character in the story, it could be your client, it could be you, or it could be someone else. He or she goes through a certain journey, and she's facing some difficult situation, and then this product or solution or this company brand shows up, and it solves the issues, and her lifestyle or her business or their team productivity are changed and improved, and you have a bright you're looking at a bright future for your business, right? So when it's told in a story format, people would listen. Because we can't resist good stories,
right?
And that's universal, and it's been that way since thousands of years ago. It's just a human nature. So especially if you want to get some results, if you want to get your business done, you need to tell a story.
So what's from your business experience, what is just one of your favorite success stories where someone's gone from challenge to success? And this could be someone, one of your clients, or it could be your story, or anything. I'd love to hear one of those success stories. What was the point first?
Yeah, one story I can share with you is my client who wanted to get funded by venture capital. They're looking for $3 million, and they had their own version of presentations, and they were approaching so many different VCs, and they kept getting rejected. And they came to me. And when I looked at their presentation, it was what I call ore speech, or I focus speech. I did this, and I, as a president or founder, has this much experience, and my company has such greatness, and blah blah blah, right? And if you just listen to her stories, it sounds like, oh wow, she's a really capable, passionate founder of this company. But she was presenting to a VC, the venture capital, and what they're looking for is this business investment worthy? Is this business going to make me profit?
Exactly.
So I call it you focused. Instead of what I want to tell them, what are they looking for? What's their interest level? What's their concerns? And what do they really want to know? So with that you focused, I completely rearranged their presentation and focused on the you focused message so that this business is so unique and it has such a niche advantage to generate a high ROI. And here are the 3 reasons why. And with that presentation, the first presentation they got funding.
Wow. Yeah.
So just by changing from I focused to you focused, totally changed the result.
Yeah, it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
I love that. That's wonderful. And what about your story, Natsuyo? So there's a couple of places I want to go with this. The first one is you are a Japanese woman, and now you are an amazing, international speaker. You're living in New York. You're speaking fantastic English. A lot of our female listeners, especially, are probably thinking, "Oh, I could never do that. It's never possible for me."
Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Give them some advice. Tell them some stories.
Okay. Well, do we have 3 hours to talk about it? Well, I mean, as you can hear, I have an accent. English is not my first language. And in fact, I made a grammatical error at the very beginning. I noticed it and I just let that go and I kept going. So I'm not a native English speaker. And which story am I going to tell? Okay, so when I was in college, a junior in college, I got accepted into a college in the U.S. in St. Louis, and it was my first time to spend a whole year overseas. And at that time, I thought my English was fine because I was going to, Ekimai Ryugaku, right? Those English schools, and I liked English and I studied hard, so I thought I was fine. And on day 1, I got into my dormitory, and there was a dorm tour led by some senior in college. And I joined, and I could not understand what they were talking about. And I felt so left behind. And they were going like, we're gonna take over the 3rd floor, and let's go, and what's up? And like, what the hell is what's up? What's up, what? What's up there? And I totally didn't understand it. And very quickly, I put myself in a little shell, and every night I would go straight to my room after dinner and close my door and cried because I was so frustrated. And one Friday night, there was a dorm party, and now where my floor was full of freshmen, and you know what freshmen do. The first thing, they get drunk and they party all night, and that was the last place I wanted to be. So I tried to escape into my room, and someone grabs my shoulder and he says, "Hey, why are you always so unsocial?" And that moment, I felt like a water-filled balloon ready to explode. And this boy, I still remember his name, Nate. Nate's words were like the little tiny pop into the balloon. And I burst into tears in front of everybody. And it was such a party spoiler. And I hated myself even more. But I tried to squeeze out, you know, whatever I could think of in English. And I said, my English not good. And then Nate gave me these two amazing words that I never forget, that changed my life. And he said, "So what?"
Yes.
And I thought, what?
Yeah.
But then I realized, oh, I thought I had to speak perfect English and my English is not good and I was so embarrassed. But this guy says, "So what?" He doesn't even care about my English.
Right.
And I thought, oh, so it was me who was putting myself down. And it was me that who was, you know, putting myself in the shade. So the next day I opened my door a little bit so that people can pop in and say hi, and I went out and knocked on their doors and said, "Hi, I have a question." And little by little I started to regain my confidence. So since then, "So what" has become my mantra, one of my mantras. Whenever I feel you know, I should, or but I can't, I'm not enough, you know, I say, "So what? Who cares?"
Right.
So what?
Right.
And usually what you think is a problem is not a problem.
Right.
And it's just in your mind. So changing perspectives is the key in I guess cross-cultural communications, or if you feel that your English is not good enough. I mean, my English is not perfect and I'm a professional speaker. And if I care about my imperfect English, I can't put myself out there in front of native English speakers and provide my value. But it's not the English itself that I can bring values, but I have something else I can offer to the audience. So that's why I'm up there and speaking to the audience.
Right, exactly. And you know, if you are, and this is for everybody who's concerned about their English or their, you know, their other language, because it was the same for me when I was learning Japanese. And at first I was really concerned about getting my Japanese right, and that was holding me back. But if you are concerned so much about the language, you just don't get the message across, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, some interesting thing is there was some app or some kind of social SNS game to gauge your level of vocabulary. And one of my Japanese clients took this game or test or game, and he had, I guess, I forgot, maybe about 20, close to 20,000 words or something. And I believe, I forgot the exact number, but the native English speakers, adults, have about 30,000 or so words. So I took the test, and I expected it to be a little higher than my client, and it turned out to be a little shy of 10,000, something. and I immediately looked it up. What level am I? And I found out that 9,000 to 10,000 ish is about 8-year-olds vocabulary. So I only have 8-year-olds vocabulary, yet I'm still speaking professionally. So don't worry about your vocabulary or your pronunciation, your grammar. You are more important than just concerned about your own flaws and stuff. If you have a value, be confident and deliver your message and tell your story.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, I would say that it's maybe because of that sort of 10,000-ish words vocabulary, that's what actually makes you really understandable and a great speaker. Because if you're using words that are too complex, you lose your audience anyway.
Yeah, and that's the key for public speaking. If you use too many technical terms, or some, I don't know, some specialty words that only people in your industry understand, then your audience is not going to understand. So you have to keep it simple. And there's a rule of KISS, keep it simple short, or keep it simple stupid, but I call it keep it simple specific.
Right.
So make it as simple as possible, but even simple words can describe so much. Like you can paint vivid imagery, with simple words. So use simple words, but try to be as specific as possible so that you can paint the picture of your scene or the future you're trying to portray from your speech.
Love it. And so I'm going to recommend to our listeners. You see, I just made a mistake there in English. Did you notice that? I'm a native English speaker. I'm going to recommendation. I'm going to recommend to listeners and those watching again to go to the show notes and go and get those books from Natsuyo, because clearly there's just so much here around public speaking, about presenting, just absolute gems. I'd like to now shift onto the other topic that you brought up in your introduction about being a breast cancer survivor. If you'd be willing to share a little bit about that, so that we can give some inspiration to women who are going through, women or men as well, because I understand breast cancer is men can get breast cancer as well. So anyone who's going through that kind of situation, or it can be any adverse situation in your life. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So it was 2017, almost 3.5 years ago. On February 6th, the day before my first round of speech contest, I found out that I had a breast cancer. And two things came to my mind. The first was, of course, about my daughter. She's a girl, and you genetically, it's more likely that she might, and hopefully not. But I really didn't want her to get scared, and I didn't want her to worry about herself or me. So I had to compose myself, right? And the second thing I thought about was, this is going to be a good story. Like in Japanese, neta, right? It's going to be a great neta. And when I thought about it, I surprised myself that, I'm a speaker. I'm a storyteller. I want to tell a story that no one else can tell. Sure, there are a lot of people who have, unfortunately, who have breast cancer, but usually people hide it. And I had a lot of friends who approached me privately to tell me that, oh, in fact, I had it too. And they all came to me privately. And I realized women or people don't want to talk about touchy topics like that. And why don't I? Why don't I be their voice? So earlier I said speaking is healing, but when I was going through breast cancer, I was going through speech contests as well at the same time. Wow. And because I had speech contests, I was able to kind of distract myself. And also, I consider speaking as a tool to connect with people. And I have this image that it's like, in Japanese we say akai ito, right? Like red thread, a thread coming out of your heart and connecting with their hearts and his heart and her heart and their heart all at the same time. So it was like lots of red threads coming from my heart to their hearts and connecting with them. And that was the healing part for me. And when I realized that speaking is healing for them and for me, I felt it's my mission to become a speaker, and I want to tell my story. So for me, speaking helped me get through a lot of tough situations, including this pandemic. But in case your listeners are not willing to do speaking, one advice I can give is another mantra other than so what is yes and.
Yeah.
Well, yes and is usually improv term, but what it does is whatever the situation is, say yes, and I will do this. Or, we often tend to say yes, but, or no, but, no, because, but yeah, I got diagnosed with breast cancer and it's hard. Yes, it's hard, but I mean, yes, it's hard and I will get through this.
Yeah.
And yes, I feel so weak and I feel like I'm going to collapse, and I'm going to be okay with it. And I'm going to reach out and I'll talk to my friends. So this mind of yes and will keep you positive and change your perspective. And so what changes your perspectives too. So it's all about attitude, and it's not, I'm not talking about, oh, you need to stay strong and you need to stay positive all the time. No. I mean, like I said, I went through depression during this pandemic, and when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I cried and I felt really vulnerable. But be okay with vulnerability because you're human, and when you I think when you're able to share your vulnerability, it gives you strength.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, real strong person can share your vulnerability.
Yeah.
So you feel depressed, you feel weak, you feel like you can't do it. Yes, that's my honest feeling, and I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna be okay.
Oh, yes, I love this. Absolutely. Just wonderful. So now you said yes and you moved on. What what's next for you? Like, what do you see? And you're doing so many great things. You've got your business, you're speaking, you've got 3 books already. What's next for you? What's in the future and exciting for you, Natsuyo?
Well, I'm serving 2 markets right now, the Japanese market and the US market. Mm-hmm. And I know I have a competitive advantage in the Japanese market, but in the US, I'm still a little tiny person mm-hmm. In this huge market, especially mm-hmm. as a professional speaker. Mm-hmm. So I want to, I guess, be grounded and take a big leap into the next level of speaking. And in order to do that, I have to go out of my comfort zone. And even after 25 years, 24, 20, 25 years, right, living in the US, I still feel sometimes, I feel a little bit shy. I feel like an introvert. I'm kind of scared to go in front of this audience. And to tell you the secret, I hate networking events because I don't want to go up to people and then start talking, and I still hate that.
Really?
Between you and me.
Wow. Yeah. And a few other people.
Keep it secret. So, but I have to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So going through the boot camp last year was a big stepping out of the comfort zone challenge for me. Right. Mm-hmm. And also at the end of this month, I raised my hand to volunteer to speak at this big event. And it's called the summer camp. Mm-hmm. And it's all established professional speakers, all wonderful professional women, all of them are American, Caucasian Americans, and I feel like, I'm very different. Mm. And yes, and I'm gonna do it. So I just raised my hand first, and I'm kind of freaking out now that I raised my hand, but I first raised my hand, and I'm gonna worry about what happens later. So I'm trying, as I'm talking about it, I feel like a little tense.
Right.
I get a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm gonna figure out the way to make it happen and make it as successful as it could be. If I make mistakes, great, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I just have to put myself out there more. So I'm trying to leap into the bigger stage, bigger global stage as a professional speaker. I want a bigger audience as a keynoter. And getting out of my comfort zone.
That's so great. And as you're feeling that sort of that I think you said tension, right? You've done that so many times before though, right? Because you've done this stepping out of the comfort zone so many times before, and it's led to great things in the past. So you can do you can do it.
Yeah. Challenges never go away. And when you clear a certain challenge, there's another challenge. So instead of stepping back, you just have to go through it and just go for it.
Right. And you said that you're not really a fan of networking. I just really want to go back to your first book, and you said Brian Tracy, right? So he's a hugely famous expert and author. So how did you get the connection with Brian Tracy?
Well, that opportunity was introduced to me by a friend of mine who's an author, and also she's Japanese American, and she has her own consulting firm as well in the US. And she has written a book with Brian Tracy in the past.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and at that time I was just exploring some opportunities, like maybe in the future I may write a book or two. So I was curious to see what it takes to become an author. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to her and just, first just to, learn about her experience. And then she said, well, Brian Tracy does this every year, and he gathers a group of authors to publish a book. So all you have to do is to write one chapter. So I thought, oh, that sounds great. So an interesting story. And then I reached out to the agency, and they said, oh, the deadline is tomorrow. The deadline for your application is tomorrow, and you need to submit your writing sample and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, okay, thank you very much. I can't make it happen so quickly, so maybe next time. And I hung up, and then I thought about this whole situation, and I thought, well, I had been speaking about many different topics. I have scripts mm-hmm. for those speeches. Mm-hmm. And if I just rearrange my scripts mm-hmm. as a writing sample, mm-hmm. I could submit it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So the next day, that was Friday, mm-hmm. the deadline, at 9:01 a.m. I called him back again saying, well, I said I'm not going to do it yesterday, but I know the deadline is today. Can I still make it? Mm-hmm. And they sent it to them, and at the end of the day, they said yes.
Wow. That's amazing. So, no, you said that you're not such a fan of networking events, but what you are, and even what you are great at is reaching out to people. From what I've heard, and you reached out to me, even though we have a number of mutual connections. You did reach out to me, and so yeah, I love that. And there's something else that I hope that our listeners and viewers will keep in mind is the value of taking that little step and contacting maybe someone that you don't really know, and just you never know what it's going to lead to.
Right, exactly. So for me, reaching out on email or just one-on-one conversation is fine, but I just don't like to be in this huge cocktail party where you have to talk loud and have a drink on your hand and business card on the other hand, and just approach someone and say, hi, my name is blah blah blah, and what do you do? I can't do that.
Right.
But yeah, if I'm not willing, if I'm not comfortable doing that, maybe one-on-one reach out is the place to start, which I did with you. So
I love it. It's so interesting because so many people look around and think, oh, everybody else is so good at networking and being in those groups and things. We had this exact conversation on one of the Sasaka VIP women's coaching calls just recently, and one of the women was saying about how she feels really, really nervous. She's not comfortable going and introducing herself to people. And I said, okay, so how many others in the group feel the same way? And it's like all the hands go up, and I'm like, even though if I take the various tests and things, I come out as an extrovert. It doesn't mean to say that I'm fully confident in every single situation. And I also, if it's a room of people that I don't know, then there'll be some hesitation about, going and talking to people. And it's something that I've learned to just do anyway. It's like the yes and that you, that you talk about.
And. Yeah.
Right. So many, and this again goes back to just the whole, sharing and being open, is that you find the more that you share these things and be vulnerable in this way, that you find that other people feel very much the same way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wonderful. So I think we better be careful that we're not going on for hours and hours and hours.
So because we can.
we certainly
definitely can.
So what else would you like to share with our listeners and viewers today?
Well, I I really want to tell everyone that, you may have a fear of public speaking. They say public speaking is number one fear, but I used to be that way too. But public speaking is a tool to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you connect with others, you feel really rewarded and healed. And I mean, you feel connection through speaking, right? So I really want to tell everybody that speaking is actually fun.
Yeah.
It's not something you want to be scared of. So approach public speaking as one-on-one conversation expanded. And everyone has your own story. Even if the message is the same, your story is your own unique story.
Yeah.
So when you tell your story, instead of just delivering a message, when you tell your own version of story, it becomes so powerful. And it'll give you confidence too. So yeah, enjoy speaking, enjoy storytelling. And if you don't know how, you know what book to read.
Exactly.
And once again, if you're not watching YouTube, if you're only listening, it's called 世界のエリートは自分の言葉で人を動かす by Forest 出版.
Fantastic.
That's
and
the
it's
book.
in the show notes, everybody. Go to the show notes, get all the links. Everything you need is there. Wonderful. Okay, so thank you so much, Natsuya. This has been I knew it would be. I just knew it was going to be amazing and inspiring, and it absolutely has been. So thank you so much, and I'm so happy to have this opportunity to know you and to chat with you and to share your wisdom and expertise.
The same here. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.